So NIO's Power Day just happened. The whole event was like an hour and 40 minutes long. A lot of very cool stuff is announced, and this really gives you guys a good update about NIO's current situation in terms of power swap, charging, etc., and some of the core technologies. And they also announced some really cool stuff near the end. Please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for daily NIO videos. That's what I'm trying to do. Also, if you guys haven't already installed the NIO app, please do install the NIO app, the European NIO app, and then use my invite code LEGPC7. Even if you don't live in Europe, collect some login rewards, get those NIO points, daily free NIO points, so that in the future when you do go to Europe, you know, you can get some free coffee, you can get maybe some free merch, start racking up those points. So let's talk about NIO Power Day, man. So we're gonna recap everything at the very start. They started off with this video about NIO Power Journeys, and then the co-founder came on stage and he talked about some of the major achievements. And the first major achievement that they succeeded was the world's, well, not the world's, though, well, basically the world's longest highway route that is fully like a battery chargeable and swappable route. And it's basically the Silk Road electrified. That's what they called it. So from the very eastern side of China all the way to the western side near Kazakhstan. And this whole entire route, it's pretty much all swappable, and occasionally a few points you might have to charge. And that's very, very impressive. And the distance, average distance between these swap stations is around 95 kilometers. So it's pretty much swap and go, and the longest distance between two swap stations is 200 kilometers. You can pretty much swap all the way to the very western side of China. Very, very impressive. And then he talked about more about power journeys and how there's like over 60 routes open. A bit more about what power journeys is. It's basically going to scenic places or touristy places that isn't really like urban, right? For example, Beijing, this is pretty urban. You go to more rural places, scenery places, and you have these kind of power chargers or swap stations on the route to help you get there without any trouble. And a lot of these times beforehand, if you wanted to go there with an EV, it was pretty much impossible. But with this, now it's possible. So it's not only for NIO owners, also other EVs can also take advantage of these chargers and then get there. And what's really interesting is they're also working with the European team and starting power journeys in Europe and building more chargers over there to help European NIO owners get to further places. Very, very cool, very nice. And then they talked about home chargers. Home chargers is pretty important. He talked about how there's 97,596 power home chargers installed. And he talked about how this number actually decreased from last year. And this, by the way, is the total number. It actually decreased from last year. And he said this actually signifies that people are less concerned about installing a home charger and have more confidence in battery swap system, which I believe is also true. And he also talked about how they have the most comprehensive home charger lineup, 20 kilowatt hour, 11, and then 7 kilowatt hour, all DC current chargers. And he also said if an existing first-gen NIO owner has one of those alternating current chargers, home chargers, NIO can help them basically get the install fee is waived if they get a DC current one. So that's pretty nice of them to do as well. NIO has a ton of chargers. People focus on swap stations most of the time, but chargers, man. He talked about Power Charger 3.0, the 500 kilowatt charger, very nice. He talked about how they installed 500 of these in just 100 days. Very, very fast, and you can see the peak speed, 1,000 volts, and then 660 amps max current. So the vehicle, NIO is actually the vehicle brand with the most chargers in China, actually surpassing Tesla. And these are public chargers, so chargers that are available to other brands as well, not just NIO. 16,745 chargers. And actually, you see a lot of the times, a lot of other brands, these EV owners with other cars, come to NIO's power chargers and charge over there. So he had a chart to break this down, so you can see 20.3% were NIO owners that charged there, and then you got 19.2% BYD, 13.1% Tesla, and then you got Geely, and then all the other companies, and also Xpeng as well. So this is really a good way for NIO to provide, as they say, convenience for every EV user. And also, it's a very good source of income for them. And one thing you guys might not know is during holiday season, especially when there's high demand, NIO jacks up the prices of these chargers for non-NIO owners. So I've seen them go as high as 5 RMB per kilowatt hour. I mean, like, damn, that is expensive, man. That is more expensive than gasoline. But you know, when it's in high demand, yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to get that money, right? So NIO's raking in those bucks by doing that. Very nice. And then they also talked about the number of swap stations, the chargers on highways, 150 stations, 459 of them on expressways. So that's the number of chargers, 459. Obviously, the State Grid has more chargers, but the State Grid is not a vehicle brand. And there's also other charging companies that have more chargers than NIO, but those aren't vehicle brands, all right? They're just focused on chargers. Vehicle brand-wise, NIO is the #1 company with chargers, all right, in terms of chargers. Then he started talking about swap stations, 1,564 swap stations as of this event. He talked about how just 1 week later, they're probably going to get about 1,600. So that's about like 36 swap stations in a week. That's how fast they're deploying them. And he's talked about how the first Gen 3 power swap station is going to go live in Europe in August. It's actually already there. It's just in a test phase. People can go swap, but it's basically a test phase. Cumulative swaps as of today at lunchtime, 25,334,943 swaps. And NIO actually has a website that just updates everything live, and you can see the number just goes up so fast. And he talked about how on average it's about 1.6 seconds per swap. There's a NIO swapping every 1.6 seconds. That's pretty crazy. Think about it. That's a lot of people swapping. Yeah, one swap completed every 1.6 seconds. Bam, that is crazy. This is a very interesting chart to look at. Power swap as users' favorite solution. Electricity swapped versus electricity charged. There's like 58.1% is from swapping, and then the other is 41.9% from charging. People like swapping more. Obviously, they made swapping free. 6 free swaps per month, or 4 free swaps per month, or for guys like me, unlimited free swaps per month. I haven't charged my car in more than a year just swapping. So for me, it would look more like 100%, pretty much. And you can see that big bump up in 2019, summer of 2019. That big bump up, that's when they made swapping free, and every NIO owner got free swaps. That's pretty cool. Going forward, as people get more used to swapping, and it becomes like a habit, everybody's just swapping. And even those paid guys, they're going to enjoy the convenience of swapping and pay for swaps. 73% user living in the power swap district, and that's a term they coined when you live within 3-kilometer radius from a swap station. So 73% of all NIO owners have a swap station within 3 kilometers of where they live. That's the way you got to think about this figure. And he talked about how each year it's been increasing from like 40-some% from 2 years ago to 50-some% last year, and then now 73% this year. And then you can look at this relative to the city, the NIO owners in each city, and you can see Shenzhen, 90.61% of NIO owners in Shenzhen have a swap station within 3 kilometers. So that's very convenient. And where I live here in Beijing, it's 84.79%. So pretty cool as well. This is a very good figure. Next up, Power Swap network connecting 10 expressways and 8 metropolises in China. And then he went into detail about all of these different highways that are just pure swap, and you can just swap all the way or charge, occasionally charge, but most of them just swap all the way. There's so many of these, and he talked about how like in several cities, these cities, you can pretty much just swap and you don't need to charge as well. There's a very cool time lapse about the deployment of NIO's power infrastructure, swap stations and chargers, and we're going to check that out right now and just look at how that thing grows. It's really fast, man, from the first swap station all the way to 1,500 swap stations. Amazing. So dark blue is swap, and then light blue is charge. Very cool. And then next you had NIO's head of Nio Power. This guy, he came up and then he talked about some of the core technology, which is really important. First off, we got Nio Power Cloud, and then the cloud uses a lot of different data to really and AI as well to find where to place swap stations, which area also needs a swap station, when to charge batteries in the swap station, etc. So Athena, a site selection AI-based spatial data. So that's also in the car. So for example, in my NIO, when I swipe over here, it can quickly give me some of these swap stations that are closest to me, or if I have navigation on, it'll also just have some of the swap stations that are on my route or at my destination, depending on my charge, etc. And that's very interesting. And then see, Athena also helps NIO choose the best locations for swapping, and they also combined it with NIO user wishes, which is basically every NIO owner can give 3 locations that they want to place a swap station at. And so NIO combined that data together and actually saw that, you know, a lot of these user recommendations match up with Athena's data. So that's pretty cool. So they can place swap stations more efficiently that way. PowerGo contextual recommendation for power services. So this one, they use a system called their AI called Monte Carlo to determine how long the lineup is at different places, and then it helps guide people to different swap stations and also determine how much they should charge the batteries inside the swap station. And one really cool thing they talked about is the power plus power map system. Basically, you can have your navigation, and it'll recommend a lot of the different swap stations or chargers along the way. And then this one thing they talked about over here, which I think is really important, is the 3D navigation. This is really to help not only better visualize the swap process for technicians, but also during test drives. A lot of customers, they don't have any concept of battery swap, so a lot of sales reps will bring these customers to a swap station to swap. But what would happen is sometimes, because these NIO houses are located in center of the city, the swap station is also super busy. So when they go for a swap, they end up lining up for quite a while, and that really lowers the first impression that the customer gets. So this is supposed to help them. It's better to visualize what it looks like, and they also employed this during the auto show in Shanghai. They had a screen on top to show what goes on during the swap. Very cool. And then also smart dispatch system, people, car station, power, all connected. Very cool. This is what's really nice. It's basically sometimes NIO owners, you look at a swap station, you don't see anybody lining up, but then once you get within 200 meters of the swap station, and that's when your order gets placed. Your order only gets placed when you get 200 meters of that swap station. Then you realize, oh, wow, now all of a sudden there's like 2 people in front of me. So what this allows you to do is allows you to see how many people are on the way to that swap station and better visualize how long that lineup might be, or maybe plan your route ahead of time. Because even if there's nobody lining up right now, but you're seeing 5 people are headed to that swap station and they're going to get there before me, that might mean that when I get there, there's 5 people in front of me. So I might have to, better plan my route. right? Or in some instances, this is something that also occurred to me, is that sometimes NIOs do fight for swaps. Everybody's racing to get within 200 meters of the swap station, and this actually happened to me several times. When we're getting close to the swap station, then I see another NIO who's trying to overtake me, but nope, I hit full throttle. The road is a 40-kilometer max speed road, but he's driving like 60. I drive 70 to prevent him to overtaking me. I get to the swap station first before him. If he got there earlier, then I might have to wait an extra 5 to 7 minutes. And also because there was only one available battery, then that means I might have to wait an extra 20 minutes just because he overtook me. So this is something that's very good, helps you visualize what's going on and better plan your time. That's very cool. He talks a lot about this whole idea of how the government has electricity needs and grid management, grid load management, and NIO is capable of basically within 10 seconds providing energy back to the grid in 10 seconds. I mean, like the state grid gives that command, hey, we don't have enough power, or we need some like load management, then within 10 seconds NIO can achieve that and help them out. And NIO is already helping out several government helping the government and in several cities with this as well. And also NIO with their smart AI system is helping the government determine which areas have more electricity needs, etc., etc. So that is very, very impressive. So 1,012 swap stations involved in load shifting. That's very cool. Cumulative charges off peak, 54,550,000 kilowatt hours plus. And what this is basically, NIO is of course capable of determining when the electricity fees are the lowest and charge the batteries when the fees are the lowest, and then when the fees are high, of course, don't charge the batteries then, really lowering the operating cost of the swap stations. Very, very good news for shareholders as well. And man, this is very nice. So 483 stations and 25,000 chargers in demand response and load shifting in these major cities. And that is exactly what I talked about. At one point I forgot to mention is this also includes price shifting. So for example, when energy prices are lower, NIO is capable of quickly adjusting the price of battery swaps or chargers to accommodate for this, to help entice people to go charge at that period of time. And also when battery fees are more expensive, electricity fees are more expensive, they're more able to adjust and make things balance out, and not just everybody go swap at the same time or everybody charge at the same time. NIO's using a lot of different ways to strategize this as well. And NIO is also the first vehicle brand connecting to virtual power plants. And yeah, this is basically offloading power to the grid when it's on demand. And then NIO is working hard to buy green energy, so electricity that's not from coal plants, and also install green stations, swap, charge, and solar. So these are what you guys really want. It's solar panels on top of the swap station. Even though these don't generate a whole lot of electricity for NIO, it does add up over time, and especially during areas where there's basically a lot of sunlight. It's actually pretty nice that they do this. Very cool. And then NIO is actually developing the first photovoltaic self-consumption system with V2G. So that is, of course, the product launch, one of the product launches, NIO's 20 kilowatt V2G charger, and this is a vehicle to grid basically. And this is actually a very big game changer as well, because this is a product that you can buy. And he talked about how a lot of NIO owners, when they're big bosses, they have factories, but then because the factory needs more electricity than what their transformers can supply, if they want to turn on the AC or do something else or increase production, they can't because they're constricted, bottlenecked by electricity output. And if they want to increase electricity output, they have to buy a different transformer, and this would cost a ton of money. So what NIO is offering is, of course, this product as a solution you can not only charge your car, but you can also use your car as a battery bank and offload electricity to your factory or to your wherever, your home or whatever, and pretty much offer power to your home or factory. That's very, very cool. And also, these chargers are not just only going to be for sale, also at certain places, parks, etc. It's also going to be available that you can charge there if you want. You can also offload electricity if you want and earns a bit of money. And of course, you guys are worried, what about NIO owners like us? We got free swaps. Can we just swap the electricity and then go to one of these and then sell the electricity and start earning some money? Obviously not, because that would violate their user agreements and we would lose our free swapping. So that is something that's very dumb and not worth doing. But if you do have your own home charger and you can charge at a very cheap electricity fee rate, then you can use this and start earning money as well. That's very, very cool. Yeah, that's one of the products that they launched. Very, very awesome. And then actually right next to the Hoshaoyu Service Center, which is the one that I usually go to, they installed a couple of these that you can actually try out. And the background doesn't look like that. They photoshopped that in because the background actually looked kind of bad. And then keep on moving on. More energy efficient via load shifting. Very cool. Yep, we all know what that is about. The boss came back on. Well, the co-founder came back on, and he talked a bit more about the 9 major benefits of swapping. And we got to talk about this battery swap. So first of all is to be as fast as refueling. Very, very important. 3 to 5 minutes, very fast, and then go anywhere without range anxiety. Number 2, and of course, it's talking about the reliability of swap stations, because when I went to Chongli, which is a bit more far out, more suburban, it was where the Winter Olympics in Beijing was held. A lot of the chargers, even though they were state grid, only one of them worked. So you see what I mean, right? Like when you go there, you see there's chargers. Yay! You plug it in, doesn't work. What? So with this, as long as you can see on the map, as long as it's lit up, it's going to work. So it's very, very much more reliable and helps resolve range anxiety. Hassle-free swap without leaving your car. You don't have to get out the car. You don't have to touch any dirty chargers or heavy chargers. You just have to press a button. You don't have to get out in the cold or the blazing hot heat. So that's also another benefit. So those are the first three benefits. And then the next one is, of course, upgrade for urban commute and getaways. So if you want to go to further out, you can just do a temporary upgrade. And there's a big secret about this that we're going to talk about in a minute, that they just announced, which I think is going to change everything, man. Holy smokes. Yeah. And then he talked about how the number of NIO owners that bought the 70 kilowatt hour pack versus the 100 kilowatt hour pack used to be 50-50 before flexible upgrade was launched. But now, after it was launched, it's 90 to 10. So 90% NIO owners buy the standard range battery compared to just 10% buying the long range battery. And this is more like people would use the flexible upgrade and upgrade the battery to a high capacity battery for their vacations or long commuting needs. And he joked about how this on paper for the company it's not that good revenue wise because you're earning less money, but this makes you more happy that a lot of people are not worried about range as much as they used to before and are more comfortable buying the standard range. And then for city use, no need to get the heavier 100 kilowatt hour battery and spend more money, and just rent that if you need it. Very, very good. And then a cool stat, they've done over 80,000 battery upgrades, and this also includes short-term upgrades as well, like those battery rental upgrades, and some of them are permanent as well. You can do permanent upgrades, and that's a very cool aspect about NIO, which is why I also bought this car. You can upgrade the battery. If other guys, you're just left with your old battery. It's gonna get older and older, and soon it dies. Whereas with this, your battery not only maintains its health status, it also gets better and better. You can get further range, which is just unprecedented, and nobody else out there offers this, which is very cool. The English translation is a bit bad. It's wrong. The lower purchase tax with battery subscription. We'll talk a little about that. This is supposed to mean something else, but what the Chinese says, it lowers the price of the car so that it's easier for people to buy the car. And then he talked about how in 2 years' time, 2025-ish, there's going to be EV purchase tax here in China as well. But if you can split the battery and the car, which is what BAS does, then you actually get to avoid these taxes. So that's what that English translation is trying to say, and he does talk about that later on. Very cool. And then he talked about another benefit. Every swap is a battery health check. He talked about how he has home chargers. He has a couple home chargers in his home. He charges regularly. He doesn't really need to go swap, but every once and then he goes to swap just to make sure that the health of his battery is good. And he talked about how by doing swapping, the battery health on your car is going to surpass the battery health of a car of NIO that doesn't do swapping long-term wise. So that's very cool as well. And also one thing to mention is if anything goes wrong with the battery or it degrades or the health of the battery goes down, then NIO can replace that battery or take it out and fix it or recycle it. Very, very cool. And then ideal charging current for longer battery life than supercharger. You know how supercharger, you just overload the battery with electricity, might not be that good for the battery health. With this battery swapping, it just sits in the swap station and NIO can charge it at the most ideal speed to make sure the health of the battery stays good, and charge it slowly if they can. And if there's a big demand for battery swaps and there's not that many fully charged batteries, they can boost up the speed so they can variably adjust charging speed to better suit the needs and also the health of the battery. Very, very impressive. Easier to recycle and reuse swappable batteries. If there's something wrong with your battery, you can swap it out, and it's easier to take that away than to ask every NIO owner to come, every EV owner to come and then manually take off the battery. This is a lot faster. So that's another really important benefit. And of course, the other one is the V2G benefit, the vehicle to grid benefit. Very, very nice. And so he talked about some important updates near the end, and this is very, very cool. There's going to be faster automatic parking in one go available in Q3. One go just means you're parked and then it's going to go zoop and then zoop into the swap station. Right now it goes like zip zip and then zip zip. Basically 2 goes. You got to do 2 goes to get into to park inside the swap station. NIO is fixing that to make it 1 go. It's going to increase parking times by 40% for swap stations. So that's very cool. Available in Q3, which is right now. So it's going to be available very soon. Power keep and swap available in Q4. This translation should be more like power on during swap, available in Q4. So even during the swap, what usually happens, the screen goes dark, the computer, pretty much everything goes dark, no AC, no nothing. But with this, you can keep the screen on, you can have music still playing, watch your movies, but no AC still because AC uses too much power. But that's going to be available in Q4. Very nice. And then the big announcement that I just, holy smoke, shocked me so much. Flexible upgrade by the day. It used to be by the month, and you have to pay 880 RMB per month to upgrade. One-way rental, no prepayment needed. It's just basically with my car, if I'm doing a 2-day road trip, which my wife wants to do, a 2-day road trip, I can rent the 100 kilowatt hour battery for 2 days and increase my range and not have range anxiety. And that is absolutely what I'm going to do. So thumbs up for this video. I'm going to do that very soon. This came at a perfect time to test that out. And the fee on this thing is 50 RMB per day, which is roughly about $8 per day, $8 US. per day to pretty much increase your range by like 40%. How impressive is that for one day? And NIO owners, early NIO owners like me, we get 40% off this price. Oh, that's crazy. 30 RMB. So that's like almost like 4 or 5 US dollars. I can pretty much increase my range by 40%. Holy smokes, that's so insane. And what's really insane about this is you don't have to return the battery at the swap station you got it from. You can return the battery at the destination swap station that you want to go to. This is an absolute game changer, man. Holy smokes. And I'm going to be using this regularly, like on longer trips or anything. And anytime I'm going to go out of Beijing, of course, I'll be using this. And you just pay as you go. 30 bucks or 30 RMB a day, 4 US dollars a day. Can you imagine that? Holy smokes, that's so cheap, man. Recharging beyond refueling, that's the mission goal for NIO. Damn. And then that was pretty much it. They had some Q&A with some of the media personnel, but they turned off live stream, so we don't really know what they asked. Boy, oh boy, I am so impressed by this announcement. Some of the core tech that NIO has to offer, very impressive as well. And also the flexible upgrade by the day is just crazy to think about. And 150, when that comes out, if they're able to do that by the day as well, double your range for one day. Can you imagine how crazy that is? Holy smokes. And of course, it's going to be semi-affordable as well. Maybe not as affordable as 4 US dollars per day, but even if it's like 20 US dollars per day, damn, that's still like crazy, man. Double your range for a day, man. You can't do that on any other EVs. So you guys got to buy NIO, man. No questions asked. Nobody else can do this kind of stuff. NIO's changing the game right here, man. NIO's changing the game. And don't forget, use my invite code, LEGPC7 in Europe. And if you live in China, scan this QR code. Buy a NIO, all right? As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.